Hi folks, welcome to World in Conflict. I'm Jeff Williams and I'm your host. Today we're asking, back to the future? Are terrorist attacks really starting to come more and more now? We'll be speaking to Chase Sargent, who was in a secure location when we made the video with him on Skype. Quality is not that good, but content is excellent. Let's listen to what he has to say. Roll that video. Okay, welcome everybody to CMTV Crisis Management Television, World in Conflict. The question that I'll be asking our resident terrorist expert today, Chase Sargent, is, Chase, what are the new types of threats we in the West can expect to be exposed to as we go about our daily lives?
Well, are you talking about business or like personal threats?
A bit of both, really. You know, what businesses need to do and what do you think the individuals as families should be thinking of?
It's an interesting question. Let's talk first at an individual level. I mean, we know that ISIL has already threatened U.S. military and their families, and we've seen that, at least from a media standpoint. ISIL is becoming fairly sophisticated with their propaganda machine with regards to their videos and their beheadings and bringing Americans on board. So the first thing from a personal standpoint is absolutely, I think that unfortunately, you must live your life as a sheepdog, which means, you have to be protective of your family. You have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to understand that the threat is there. Now, I don't mean live in fear and board your house up, but the reality is the threat is there. I mean, just by example, in this country, we've had the bombings at the Boston Marathon. We've had several plots that were foiled in New York City and Times Square. I mean, what we term or what the United States government refuses to accept as acts of terrorism, we call workplace violence. An example is the Fort Hood shootings by an Army Muslim, the most recent beheadings in a manufacturing facility by an American Muslim. So I think that you have to be aware on a family and a individual level that the world is greatly changed and there is new threats out there.
So if it was your family, Chase, if it was your family, what would you be telling, say, if you had two small children and your wife, what would you be telling them to be aware of if they went shopping?
I think they need to be aware of anything that's out of place, and certainly that requires a little training. They need to be aware of anything that is out of place. If it feels out of place, if it looks wrong, if it smells wrong, it is wrong, then you should remove yourself from the situation. They need to be aware that if they're sitting in a bench in the mall and there's an unattended package or backpack sitting by them, they need to get up and walk away and notify somebody about it. They need to be aware of the personal and criminal threat that's out there that's against them, and they need to stay at yellow all the time with their head on a swivel and looking around them and being aware of their surroundings. We don't want to be the police or a military state, but I think it's a matter of education and letting your families know that there is a threat out there. I think, when my family's out, I'm always protective of them in one way or the other. And, in the U.S., we're allowed to carry concealed weapons for the most part, so I assure that I do that at all times. But my head's on a swivel, and I'm always looking to see if there's something out of place or something that's just not right.
Yeah, that's good to hear, Chase. It's interesting as well that in the UK we're allowed to carry concealed weapons. They're called fountain pens. That's what we're allowed. Which about sums it up, doesn't it? The level of protection you're allowed in certain Western countries to protect your own family.
Well, you know what they say, a gun is a lot like a parachute. If you need either of them and you don't have them, it's unlikely that you will ever need them again.
Yeah, it's a true story. Well, Chase, that's interesting to know. As a businessman, right, if I was traveling somewhere, what would you give me advice to be aware of, say in airports or train stations or things like that?
I think, one, be very aware, obviously, of leaving any of your personal gear, your computers, your passports, your money, your identification. Be very careful about showing your identification where somebody else can see it, where they can identify your nationality or where they can identify who you are, pick up any of your pertinent information that might be used against you. I think it's also important to remember that we have a lot of foreign fighters now that are from Britain and France and the United States, and these people are just looking for other methods to entry into the country other than their own, where they might be flagged on their own. I think you also need to be aware of where you're going. You should do a little intel of your own and find out where the safe places are that are accepted where you're traveling.
Yeah.
And I would avoid a lot of the places where a lot of the expats hang out, because those are the places that are going to be targeted for either suicide bombings or attacks.
Yeah, that's good advice. I remember when I was in Dubai, I used to go into this bar in this hotel, and it was always a little bit concerning how many Pats were in there drinking. And then every so often we would get, say, somebody come in who wasn't recognised and just sit there, and it was a little bit unnerving to say the least. So you have to be aware of these things. Well, listen, Chase, that's great. Thank you very much indeed for that one. What I'll do is next time we're speaking, we're going to be talking about how we go about the American businesses being better prepared to face the terrorist threat. So, Chase, on behalf of everybody at CMTV, look forward to speaking to you at the next World in Conflict.
Thank you.
So there you have it, folks. Are we back to the future? Time will tell. See you next time on World in Conflict on CMTV, saving your business and saving your world. Stay safe. Bye.